Namaste, sir.
Namaste, namaste. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarvalokanam Bhijaje Bhavaroginam Nidhaye Sarva Vidhyanam Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvighna Guru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Gajananam Bhuta Ganadi Sevitam Kavittajam Bhupalasara Bhakshitam Umasudam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Padapangajam Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavathanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram Shakte Pautramakalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shugadhatam Taponidhim Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudhirayet. Last week we were looking at what happened after death of Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, right? We looked at how Vyasa came to Hastinapura, and through Vyasa the princes of Kashi were married to Vichitravirya, got their children. So anybody want to tell me who was the first son born? Yeah, Kaumadi.
It was Dhritarastra.
Yeah, and how?
Because of Vedavyasa.
Yeah, what happened?
So Ambika, Satyavati, she called Vedavyasa, and then Vedavyasa said he would be in penance for a very long time, so he would look very scary. So then she told it's okay. But when Amba, she saw Vedavyasa, Ambika, when she saw Vedavyasa, she got scared and covered her eyes. So that's how Dhritarashtra was born with blind.
Yes, very good. Thank you. So she was scared when she looked at that scary sight of Vyasa. She was very scared, right? That's why she closed her eyes, and Vyasa says the child born will be strong and he will know everything, but he will be blind. So then Satyavati requests Vyasa again that one more child to be born, and this time Satyavati asks her second daughter-in-law, right? And what happens then? Anybody?
He sent Ambalika, and then when she saw Vyasa, she went pale because she was so frightened, and that's why Vyasa said that the son born he will be quite weak and he will be pale because of that.
Yeah, and who was the son's name?
Pandu.
Good. So Pandu was born, he was weak and pale. And then what happened? Satyavati asks Vyasa again that we need one more son, because the first one is blind, cannot become a king. The second one is pale and weak, he may not be strong enough to rule the kingdom. So she asks again Vyasa. What happened third time? Anyone? Ram, Vaishnavi? Okay, Raghav, your turn.
So since they couldn't have a weak king or a blind king, they Satyavadev told Ambika to prepare again. Ambika, remembering what Vedavyasa's face was like, she sent a maid. That maid dutifully went there, and Vedavyasa knew that she was a maid, but still blessed her. He, as a son born, would be very wise and follow dharma. So instead of becoming frightened, the maid dutifully bowed down and gave respect to the rishi. And the rishi blessed her that her son will be following dharma and will follow all the rules and dharma. And the reason why, and dharma will be inside of him. The reason why, because I think he said that dharma would be cursed and was cursed and would be sent out as a form of would be sent down, and he said he would be born again in a human. So the son born to that maid was called Vidur.
Yes, good. Thank you. Yeah, Vidura was born as a son of the maid, and because he had all the knowledge, he was born with all the knowledge of all the shastras and rules and regulations, everything, conduct, customs, everything. He was fully knowledgeable, and he was the form of Dharma. Yama himself was born. The reason Yama was born in a Shudra mother was because he was cursed by Rishi Mandavya. Rishi Mandavya was once doing a penance. He was observing a vrata, right? He was not speaking to anyone. The thieves came to his ashrama and were hiding in his ashrama. The soldiers took them and they put a staff through their body and tried to kill them. Mandavya was not killed and his staff was cut, and they left a piece on its body, pierced outside his body, and that's why it became known as Ani Mandavya. When that rishi died, he went to Yama, and he asked Yama what mistake I did, and Yama said, you pierced with a blade of grass an insect when you were young. And Mandavya says that as per the Shastras, children under 12 years or cannot commit any sins. So whatever the acts they do is not counted as sins. And Mandavya, that's why curses Yama for killing a Brahmana for no reason, that he will be born as a Shudra's son on earth. And also Mandavya makes a rules that children under 14 years from that point can commit no sin. So we have 3 children born, okay, through Vyasa, Dhritarastra, Pandu, and Vidura. Okay, Dhritarashtra through Ambika, and Ambalika's son is Pandu, and the maid's son is Vidura. So next, Vyasa narrates, Vaishampayana narrates the next story. So all the 3 children, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, Vidura, all of them grew in all the wealth and prosperity, everything. Bhishma, who is looking after them because Vichitraviri already died, looked after them like their father. He's actually like their grandfather, right? But he looked after them like their father. The children grew learning all the Vedas, Shastras. They were learning all the skills required to become a warrior. Okay, like a Kshatriya practice, they learned everything, riding on the horse, practicing the bows with mace, sword, shields, everything. They learned everything. Okay, and also they learned science of morality. That means dharma, how to protect people, what should be done, what is good, what is not, when under different circumstances, what to do. They learned all the history and Puranas. Okay, they learned everything. And all of them, Pandu and Dhritarashtra, were fully knowledgeable, and they become great. When they became adults, they were fully knowledgeable and strong in everything. Okay. Pandu again, he was very strong in his archery. Okay. Dhritarashtra, because he was born with 1,000 elephant strength, he was very strong in personal strength, but he could not do other type of battle because he was blind. But personally, if anybody comes for a combat, he was very strong. Okay. And Vidura, obviously, he was born with all the virtue and goodness, and he had all the knowledge of morality and dharma. Okay. And then what happens is Pandu becomes the king. Okay. So till that time, Bhishma was running the kingdom. Okay. Even though he was not the king, he was looking after the kingdom. And then Pandu becomes the king because Dhritarashtra was blind and Vidura was born of a Shudra woman. Pandu became the king. Okay. So once Pandu became king, Bhishma thinks about their marriage. Okay. Dhritarashtra, Pandu's marriage. One day, Bhishma calls Vidura and mentions that we should marry these two, Pandu and Dhritarashtra, we should marry them. So he thinks about daughter of Sulava, okay, the king Sulava, and daughter of Yadava, and also Madras as potential brides. He thinks, okay, who are all the girls available currently? Okay, they look around and then thinks about these three. So Bhishma hears about Gandhara king's daughter, okay, that she was blessed by a rishi to have 100 sons. Okay, so Bhishma thinks that she is the right bride to Dhritarashtra and she will continue the dynasty with her 100 sons. So Bhishma decides to marry, her name is Gandhari, to Dhritarashtra. Okay, and once when the proposal goes in, the Gandhari, hearing that Dhritarashtra is born blind, she also decides to put a cloth, blindfold her eyes, and makes a vow that she will also remain blind throughout her life. Even though she could see, she will be blindfolded throughout her life and living a life just like her husband would. Okay, that's the devotion she had. And then Shakuni, who is her brother, along with her father, marries Gandhari to Dhritarashtra and gives all the valuable things as a gift to be Hastinapura, and then he returns to Gandhara. And Gandhari again, she was very devoted to her husband. I already said because of her husband, she blindfolded herself. She was very devoted and gratified. She was very happy with her husband and all these superiors in Hastinapura, and she never referred even by words men other than her husband and superior. So what that means is she was always chaste and she was looking after her husband, okay, respectful to her husband. Then the second son, Pandu's wedding, comes in. So Dhritarashtra married Gandhari from Gandhara. Yes, Ram, Vaishnavi.
If she puts a blindfold on her, how can she look after Dhritarashtra?
So it is again, they are kings and queens, right? They had people to support them, but what her vow was, if her husband could not see something or do something or enjoy something, because with eyes we enjoy a lot, right? All the beauty that's there outside in the world or whatever we enjoy. If her husband could not enjoy those things, she also won't enjoy this life. If he is suffering something because of that, maybe he's struggling to walk because of blindfold, right? He could not, he was born blind. She says, I am also going to suffer just like him. I can't enjoy a happy life while he is suffering. That was her purpose.
Thank you.
Okay. So then the next thing is Pandu's wedding. So before we go there, we hear about the Yadava princess I mentioned. Okay. So in the Yadavas is the dynasty where Krishna was born. Okay. In the Yadava princess, there was a king called Sura. He had a son Vasudeva. Vasudeva's son is Krishna. Okay. Vasudeva. And Vasudeva had a daughter called Prita. And Sura once gave it made a promise to Kunti Bhoja, the king of Kunti Bhoja, so that he will give his first son or daughter to him, because Kunti Bhoja did not have children. He will adopt. Kunti Bhoja will adopt. So Sura had his first daughter was born, and that was Prita, and he gave her to her paternal aunt Kunti Bhoja. Okay, so they gave up her very early when she was very little. So that's why Prita became daughter of Kunti Bhoja, adopted daughter. Okay, and she was very beautiful, and she was in her adopted home. She was looking after all the brahmanas, guests, and worshipping everybody and respectful to everybody. One day, Rishi Durvasa came there. Okay, Durvasa is known for his anger. Okay, and also his penance. Okay, so if he is pleased, he would give all sort of blessings. If he is angry, he will curse immediately. He's such a person. Okay, so one day Durvasa came there. Kunti looked after him very well with all the attention and gave her service. And Durvasa realized that future there is going to be some challenges. So what he does is he blesses Kunti, Prita at this time, and also she was called Kunti now because she was now adopted by Kunti Bhoja. So she was blessed with a mantra that if she chants that mantra, any devata she remembers while chanting, they will appear before her and give her a child. Okay, so that was the mantra Durvasa gives her. One day, Kunti, she was still young, very young, still a teenage girl. Okay, very young girl. She was outside her window and looking outside, and she sees sun rising. Okay, through the mountains. What she does is, out of curiosity, she thinks about Durvasa mantra and says, I'm going to test this, whether the mantra works or not. And she chants that mantra thinking about Surya, sun. Okay, and immediately sun comes there in front of her. Okay, and she was very surprised. She was surprised and also shocked. And then she says, I just chanted this mantra just out of curiosity. I really did not want to trouble you. Sorry for my troubles I caused you. Please bless me and go away. I don't want anything else. And she also says, women, whatever the mistake they make, always deserve to be pardoned. Okay, so this is for all the boys, I guess, and for us. So women, whatever the mistake they make, should be pardoned. That's what Kunti says. Okay, but Surya says the mantra she has chanted will not go useless. Okay, and that's why she will have a son. Okay, Kunti, she was worried because she is not married and having a child is not going to be good. Okay, everybody will talk about her characters and everything else, and she did not agree. But Surya says that this has to happen because mantra has been already chanted and he has been called. So Surya gives her a child. Immediately, Kunti gives birth to a son. Okay, that son was born with a natural armor, the armor covering his chest and everything, protecting him, and also very bright earrings. Okay, and that son later on he came to be known as Karna. Okay, that is Kunti's first son born of Surya before her marriage, Karna. What Kunti does is when she realizes son was born and she is still young, she can't keep him, she decides to hide her mistake. Okay, what she does is she takes that son and leaves them in the river. Okay, on a basket, she leaves him in the river. And one day that basket was floating, and there was a Suta. Suta is the one who is a charioteer. Okay, from that class, there was a man who sees that basket. He picks it up and he takes it home. And his wife Radha says, "We will keep this son as our own son." They did not have children. They say, "We will keep him." Okay, and they called him Vasusena. Okay, that means he was born with wealth, because he was born with that armor and earrings. He was called Vasusena, and he was born of great strength, and he became, later on in his life, we will learn about more Karna, learn more about Karna later on, and he became skilled in all the weapons, and he was of great energy, and he was a worshipper of Surya himself. Okay, and then during the hours of that worship, if anyone comes, he used to gift whatever he had. Okay, and one day Vasusena, when he was doing his prayers, Indra comes there and takes away all his armor and earrings. We will learn about this later in Mahabharata, but Mahabharata here was in the Vaishampayana briefly narrates what happens later in the story. Okay, so the key thing here is Kunti as a child had a son. Okay, and that son was called Vasusena, who later became known as Karna. Okay, so then Kunti comes of age. Her father, Kunti Bhoja, decides to marry her. So what he does is he arranges a Swayamvara. Swayamvara is girl choosing her husband. Okay, all the princes, you heard this previously when Amba in Kashi, Amba, Ambalika, Ambika, all of them were ready to marry all the princes, kings, everyone assembled, and they were supposed to pick, and Bhishma went and took all three of them, right? So similar arrangement here. Kunti Bhoja arranges, okay, and she decides while she was in that assembly of all the princes and kings, she sees Pandu. Okay, and knowing that how strong, how Pandu was beautiful and good looking and everything else, she decides to marry him. Okay, and Kunti and Pandu were married, and they come to Hastinapura. Okay, so Pandu was married to Kunti. So in this Swayamvara. Then Pandu marries again. Okay, after some time, Bhishma decides that king, because he is a king, he should have his second wife. Okay, so Bhishma goes to Madra. Okay, he goes to kingdom of Madra and then asks the king of Madra to give his sister Madri to Pandu. Okay, and Madra king agrees for the alliance, but he says that we have some customs, our own customs, and you should fulfill that. And Bhishma agrees to that. The custom is they should give dowry. Okay, dowry is gift. Okay, in India also this practice was there. Okay, but it was other way around. Girls' parents used to give the dowry to boys' parents, but here girl parents or the protectors, in this case brother, gets all the wealth. Okay, Bhishma gives them the gems, stones, elephants, horses, chariots, everything as a gift to Shalya, who is the king of Madra. Okay, and Madri comes to Hastinapura with Bhishma and then marries Pandu. Okay, so Pandu now has Kunti or Prita and Madri has two brides, okay, two wives, and he married both of them, and like that he lived for about 30 days like that, and then he says, I am going on a conquest, world conquest. Okay, I'm going on a battle. I'm going to become a emperor. Okay, so he sets off. He worships, pays his respect to Bhishma, Satyavati, all the Brahmanas and elders and everybody, and also Dhritarashtra, and then he leaves. Okay, Pandu leaves Hastinapura accompanied by a large number of force of elephants, horses, and chariots and everything else. All the citizens at that time perform auspicious rites, pujas and everything else. They do it for the success of their king. So what Pandu does is he goes one after another, all the kingdoms and all the kings and everything, he goes one after another. First, he controls the robber tribe, okay, of Ashrana, and then he kills the king of Magadha, and then took all his treasury and wealth and everything else. And then he went to Mithila, and then he took control of Mithila, and then Kashi, Sumba, Pundra, all these kings. Everywhere Pandu went, he became victorious. He became the emperor, and with all that, so as Pandu, with all of them, he took all the wealth, gems, stones, everything else. He took elephants, cows, horses, chariots, everything he took from them, and then he returned to Hastinapura, victorious, conquering all the entire earth. He conquered entire earth and returned to Hastinapura, and then he worships Bhishma. He worships Bhishma and Satyavati on returning to Hastinapura. Okay, so Pandu became an emperor. Then, so what happens is here, Pandu, with all the wealth, he comes and he offers that wealth to Satyavati. He offers that wealth to his mothers, Ambika and Ambalika, and shares some wealth with Vidura and other relatives. He gives with some wealth to Brahmanas. And using that wealth, Dhritarashtra performs great sacrifices. Okay, 5 great sacrifices. Mahabharata did not say which sacrifice, but it says 5 great sacrifices he performed, and he gifted a lot of wealth to Brahmanas. Okay, thousands and thousands of Brahmanas, he gifted the wealth. And what after some time, so everyone says, King Pandu, you've been on a long battlefield, long time you spent in a battlefield. So now it is time to take rest. What they do is they suggest Pandu go on a break, holiday. Okay, holiday is like going to resorts. Okay, what Pandu does is he goes to the forest. Okay, he goes to a forest with his wife Kunti and Madri, and there they have a luxurious palace built for them, and they had everything, all the facilities available. So they goes to the forest there, and Dhritarashtra was looking after the kingdom while Pandu was away. Okay, and Dhritarashtra made sure that all the supplies Pandu requires were sent to that forest on regular basis. Okay, so Pandu was enjoying like that his life in the forest. At that same time, Bhishma heard that king of Devaka had a daughter with a Shudra woman. Okay, and that daughter Bhishma married to Vidura. Okay, and Vidura had many sons with that princess born to a Shudra woman through a king. Okay, so then the story moves to the next stage. So we learned that Dhritarashtra married Gandhari, right, from Gandhara kingdom. Pandu married Kunti, adopted daughter of Kunti Bhoja, the real daughter of Vasudeva, right? Sorry, not Vasudeva, so real daughter of Sura. And then Kunti had a son born Vasusena, okay, and he was adopted by the Radha, okay, and the mother Radha. And then Pandu conquers the world. Dhritarashtra becomes the caretaker while Pandu goes to the woods, forest for his enjoyment, okay, for his holiday. And Vidura marries the daughter of King Devaka. Next, the story goes into next level generation, okay. So next generation, which is sons and daughters and kings, princes born to Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and everything else. So Vaishampayana asks, who are all these children born to, how these children were born, okay. And the Janameja asks Vaishampayana how all these children were born, explain that. So first, the story comes of Gandhari, okay. So Gandhari's story is, once before her marriage to Dhritarashtra, she was serving with great attention Rishi Dvaipayana. Who is Dvaipayana? He is Vyasa, okay, Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. She was worshipping Vyasa and doing service to him. When he came of very tired and hungry, she served him, okay. With that, Vyasa was very pleased, and he says, he blesses her that she will have 100 children, 100 sons, okay. Each of them will be as strong as her husband, okay. Her husband has 1,000 elephant strength, okay. Each of these 100 sons will have that much strength. And after marriage, sometime, okay, Gandhari became pregnant, and what happened was, she became pregnant, but the child was not born. For 2 full years, she was having that pregnancy, and children were not born. At that time, what happens was, she hears that Kunti gave birth to one son, okay, and she becomes impatient that Pandu and Kunti already have children. So she beats her stomach, okay, without knowledge of, without informing Dhritarashtra. She beats her stomach, and a mass of flesh comes out of her stomach, okay. Instead of a child or children, 100 children, a mass of flesh comes out, okay. And when she realizes these are not children, human form, she was about to throw away. Vyasa comes there and asks her what happened, and she says that she could not wait because Kunti already had a son. She was already waited for 2 years in this pregnancy. So she stuck her stomach, and this mass of flesh has come out, and she's about to throw away. And Vyasa says, his blessing will not go false. He blessed her with 100 sons. So he asks her to bring 100 pots, okay, 100 pots with pure ghee in it, okay, and ask her to keep that pots in a special room, okay. And he also says that whatever this flesh that has come out of Gandhari's stomach, and he asked to sprinkle water continuously on top of it. And once they do that, what happens is that flesh gradually divides into 100 pieces, okay. And Vyasa, what he does is, he puts that flesh into the pots, 100 pots, and then asks Gandhari to wait for 2 more years to wait for that children to be born, okay. So these days we hear about test tube babies, right? And in the olden days, Vyasa had children born of pots, okay. Children born, the wombs were kept in the pots and then were born, okay. So look at the imagination. This was said, I think, very first class. Mahabharata has everything, okay? Everything and everything that we hear and see today. If you say, where is that illustration? It is there in Mahabharata. Okay. So Vyasa here asked Gandhari to wait for two full years, and we see what happens to that probably in the next class, if that's okay. Yeah. So Vyasa, Gandhari had a pregnancy for 2 years. She beats her stomach, the mass of flesh comes out, and Vyasa instructs her to prepare 100 pots, and in that 100 pots, the flesh was kept. Okay, 101 pots. Okay, Vyasa initially blessed 100, and we will learn next week. We'll look at next week why it became 101. Okay. Yes, Ram or Vaishnavi.
Do you keep have to sprinkle water for like until, or is it just for a time?
It
Just
was
sprinkle it and leave it.
it was
You
just
keep
for a
sprinkling.
time. Okay, it was just for a time. I will explain next week what Vyasa did. Okay, because here initially Vaishampana narrates it in 2 sentences that it was split into 101. What he did,
Mhm.
so while that ghee was being prepared and 101 pots were prepared, Vyasa asks Gandhari to sprinkle water continuously. Okay, and then Vyasa does something which we will discuss next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Are you able to follow these stories? Yes.
Yeah. Yes, but we were off for I think 2 weeks. So
Okay. Anyone missed the sessions? The recordings are there in YouTube if you want to look, read, listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, in that case, we will close today's session. Thanks everyone. I will see you again next week. Yeah. Thank you. Hari Om.